Hello, I'm Andy Whitehead. I'm the Biodiversity Net Gain Senior Advisor for the team for the Tees. I'm based in Natural England's Northumbria area team, and this is quite a recently created role that has been created to try and develop the Net Gain approach across the Tees Valley and the wider Northeast in advance of it becoming mandatory. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about what Net Gain is and what it isn't, looking a little bit beyond Biodiversity Net Gain, trying to put it in some kind of context in relation to climate change, and then again into some kind of context in relation to the Tees Valley. And finally, just a little bit about what's next. So net gain is an approach that is aimed to leave the natural environment in a measurably better state than it was before. It uses habitats as a proxy for impacts on all ecological interests, including species, and the Environment Bill will make 10% biodiversity net gain mandatory for all developments permitted under the Town and Country Planning Act. Just a little bit of example of what net gain is. So if you start with some kind of habitat and then that is lost through development and isn't replaced, you have a net loss. If at the end of it, that habitat is put back in some kind of format, then you have no net loss. And if you go beyond that and actually put more back than you started with, you have a net gain. So the metric is available online. It's currently being updated, but to actually calculate net gain, you need to know the size, the condition, the location, the ecological connectivity, and the distinctiveness of the habitats being assessed. And then within the metric, there are a series of multipliers that enable a calculation to be done to work out what biodiversity unit is. And from that, the 10% increase to achieve net gain calculated. It can be delivered on site, it can be delivered locally or through the National Credit Scheme, which is currently being piloted. And one of those pilot sites is at Barningham. So what it isn't. What net gain isn't an opportunity to lose high value habitats and replace them with larger areas of low value habitat. So trading down in the metric isn't an option. You can only do like for like or improvements to habitat to achieve net gain. And there are a few things that are excluded. So ancient woodlands, irreplaceable habitats are excluded. The Environment Bill talks about environmental net gain rather than biodiversity net gain, and that is a wider concept. It includes things like ecosystem services and the benefits to the wider economy that the environment can provide, like floodwater storage in times of high rainfall, or recreation spaces for people to go out and just spend some time outside, or the economic benefits of having, say, timber sales through woodlands. And I think the events of this past year have kind of brought home to everybody the benefits of having that kind of green space available to everybody, to people on the doorsteps. There is evidence that being outside and being connected to nature has mental health benefits, and there are obviously wider health benefits from things like air purifying services that trees, that vegetation provides, that benefit everybody. The Environment Bill mandates ecological enhancements, but through careful design of what that enhancement actually looks like, it should be possible to go beyond just basic biodiversity enhancements and think about what else it can provide. So carbon sequestration, floodwater storage, social benefits. And I think this table just shows some of the consequences of various land management options and what would happen in terms of sequestration if you were to move from one type to another. It's important to note that these changes don't happen overnight. It takes time for a habitat to establish and to fully provide the services that it can in terms of sequestration. So what happens next? The Environment Bill is progressing through Parliament again, and royal assent is anticipated next year. The updated version of the metric is due to be launched next year in response to the comments and feedback that was given earlier this year to the current version of the metric. And then there is also a register and a credit scheme being introduced as well in 2022. In the Tees context, there are a variety of designations around the Tees estuary and beyond. And the Tees Estuary Partnership and INCA have been working for quite a while now to look at an estuary-wide mitigation strategy that enhances the environment but enables development. And so there's been quite a bit of habitat mapping done to enable that. At the same time, the Nature Partnership have been identifying landscape areas across the Tees Valley, and this is shown on the graphic here. Within those, they then drilled down a bit further and looked at biodiversity opportunity areas where work to enhance or replace or recreate or restore, mitigate impacts could be done that would then deliver wider ecosystem services and generally improve the environment of the Tees Valley. And these maps and resources are all available at the website there on the Nature Partnership website. Within the Tees Valley, there are a number of priority habitats identified through the Biodiversity Action Plan. Alongside this, the Net Gain metrics identify areas of or habitats of high and very high distinctiveness. And through the careful planning and looking at the various resources that are available, it should be possible to identify where there are opportunities for those to coexist and kind of mutually benefit each other. More locally within the Tees Valley, the South Tees Development Corporation are looking at using Net Gain to ensure they achieve their environmental enhancements across the site, and are looking at a strategic approach across the entirety of their site to ensure that the benefits can be achieved and the master plan for regeneration can be achieved. And that strategic approach is one I think that can be replicated across the Tees Valley. The responsibility lies with the local planning authorities ultimately for how Net Gain is done, but there is a history of strategic engagement of partnership working across the Tees Valley, which I think, again, we can use to enhance the environment, provide benefits for the wider public, and really take advantage of the opportunity that it gives us. These are a couple of the resources I've mentioned throughout the presentation, and if anybody would like to get in touch, there is my email, and thank you very much for listening.